Tonight, the worst global energy crisis in history. Countries urged to conserve fuel. Welcome to ABC News Queensland. I'm Jessica Van Vonderen. Fair's fair. The government defends fines for failing to pay 50-cent trips. 2 dead after an Air Canada plane crashes in New York. A cowboy suspended, but only after a circuit breaker as North Queensland savours a win.
And winds and swells will pick up on the southern coast this week as a tropical low tracks south.
Good evening. The Prime Minister is negotiating with Australia's international fuel suppliers to shore up shipments as the Middle East conflict enters its 4th week. The International Energy Agency has warned this energy crisis is worse than previous oil shocks and has recommended countries start curbing demand. In Queensland, 47 servos have no diesel, 32 no regular unleaded.
Burnt-out tankers targeted by Iran, a smouldering symbol of what's being called the greatest energy crisis in global history. Worse than the twin 1970s oil shocks and Ukraine war combined.
This crisis, as things stand now, 2 oil crises and 1 gas crisis put all together.
As the clock ticks down on Donald Trump's deadline to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, Iran remains defiant, threatening to retaliate if America strikes its power plants.
The situation is very severe.
The conflict now in its 4th week, the International Energy Agency is calling on countries to consider conserving fuel stocks by working from home, lowering highway speed limits, using public transport and cutting back on flights.
We will take graduated steps depending on what happens.
In Australia, the focus is on getting fuel to where it needs to be. From Queensland to South Australia, nearly 250 service stations are out of diesel. Those who can get it are paying dearly.
We use approximately 30,000 litres a month. It's $1 a litre dearer than what we paid 3 weeks ago.
Surging diesel costs hurting the transport sector too. Unions demanding government intervention to ensure drivers are compensated.
It's really urgent. Transport will grind to a halt unless we ensure that transport operators are properly funded.
While trying to manage the economic fallout, the Prime Minister's personally intervened to shore up Australia's fuel shipments. Today, signing a pact with Singapore to ensure petrol, diesel and jet fuel continues to flow. Anthony Albanese reminding key trading partners of Australia's status as a major gas exporter.
We are reliable partners when it comes to energy security, and we expect that to be a two-way flow.
With Qatar suspending LNG exports, Australia's gas giants are cashing in. Support growing in Parliament to tax their windfall profits.
Energy investors are like butterflies. When they are scared, they fly away.
The energy boss warning against further shocks to the sector. Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
There's no end in sight to the supply shock, with Iran defiant to US demands to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. And as world leaders call for calm, Israel is intensifying its war efforts on multiple fronts.
Israel's fury raining down on Lebanon. The IDF ordering the destruction of all bridges over the Litani River to stop Iran's proxy Hezbollah from moving south to the border.
And in addition to this, to accelerate the destruction of Lebanese homes in the contact villages in order to thwart threats to Israeli communities.
As Israel fights Iran on 2 fronts, the Prime Minister made a rare wartime appearance after one of the worst attacks on Israeli soil so far.
If anyone needed an explanation of why Iran is the enemy of civilization, you got it in the last 48 hours.
At least 180 people were injured in strikes on the cities of Arad and Dimona, located close to Israel's secretive nuclear reactor.
It's scary. Children, old people, it's a catastrophe.
Aside from being a political stronghold for the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, this area is heavily protected because of the nearby nuclear facility. So news of the successful strike came as a surprise. By coming here, he's sending a message to residents, it's safe to stay. Benjamin Netanyahu telling the ABC the facility is still secure.
Is the Dimona reactor safe?
Yes.
Israel hit back with a wave of strikes. The Red Crescent responding after a residential building in the country's northwest was destroyed. In Tehran, regime supporters mocked the US president's threat to obliterate Iran's power plants if it doesn't open the Strait of Hormuz.
Trump and Israel claim they've won the war 10 times a day. They still haven't accomplished anything.
If US threats regarding Iran's power plants are carried out, the Strait of Hormuz will be completely closed.
Donald Trump spent the weekend at his golf club, leaving his lieutenants to do the talking.
He's not going to allow this genocidal regime to hold the world's energy supplies or economies hostage.
The president's partner in this war saying it will only end once Israel and the US achieve their goals. Catherine Diss, ABC News, Dimona, Israel.
Back home, ABC News can reveal new laws overhauling Queensland's e-scooter and e-bike rules will be introduced to State Parliament this week. State political reporter Jack Mackay joins us now. Jack, what can we expect?
Well, Jess, the government will ban all kids under the age of 16 from using e-scooters or e-bikes. This was a key recommendation from the parliamentary inquiry set up to probe the state's laws. The Australian Medical Association of Queensland had called for these sweeping reforms after children died or were seriously injured. The government is yet to say, though, if it will accept another recommendation calling for all riders to at least hold a learner's licence. We'll find out more details on that tomorrow. But it's understood the government will also move to crack down on drink driving riders, including setting up random breath tests to nab people doing the wrong thing. Now, it's not just e-riders in the government sites. Tonight, we can reveal thousands of commuters on the state's public transport network have been fined for fare evasion since 50-cent fares began. Is it fair or unfair to cop a fine for not paying your fare?
If you're evading a fare, you should be getting fined.
Since 50-cent fares began in August 2024, evaders have received about 14,000 fines, valued at more than $4.5 million.
I mean, there's not really an excuse not to pay, in my opinion.
Just gobsmacked, to be honest. Like, it's cheap as chips, right?
That really surprises me. We've definitely been on public transport and paid it, especially since it's only that price.
Authorities have also issued about 75,000 warnings. The government says making commuters tap on and off gives them data to better plan transport services.
We needed to keep it an amount so that we could measure exactly what was happening in terms of usage and patronage.
This data is really valuable in providing insight into the passenger trips that people are wanting to make on the network.
More commuters are doing the right thing. In 2023, the last full year before 50-cent fares began, there were about 13,500 penalties. By 2025, there were fewer than 9,000.
50-cent fares has really reduced the cost burden and made it so more and more people are able to afford it.
Well, it's pretty simple. You can avoid those fines for just 50 cents.
The fine for fare evasion is $333. If you tap onto your service but don't tap off, you could also be hit with a default fare of $2.50.
I forgot to tap off on the day we launched 50-cent fares. I paid $2.50.
My only concern when I tap on is, has it worked properly?
Jack Mackay, ABC News.
Opinion polls have been showing growing support for One Nation, and for the first time in South Australia, that's translated into seats. The party's secured more first preference votes than the Liberal opposition and has Conservatives across the country scrambling.
South Australia has never been a stronghold for One Nation, but on the weekend that changed. Voters turned to the party, most for the first time ever.
I voted Labor every state election leading up to it, but this time I voted for One Nation.
The young ones can't buy houses now. They're flooding Australia with immigrants. I'm not racist, I don't have a problem with it, but I just have a problem with the numbers.
The regional seat of Hammond is one of many across South Australia where voters threw their support behind One Nation in record numbers. Its population centre is here in Murray Bridge, where in many polling booths they came first on primary votes. One Nation has secured one seat but could win 3 more. It's been described as an orange tsunami, and the party's leader is riding it.
I'm excited. That's fantastic news, and it's great news for the people of South Australia.
Buoyed by its success, the party now has its eyes set on other contests. A May by-election in Susan Lee's former federal seat of Farrer will be the first test of One Nation's support in New South Wales.
They're a big force in Australian politics, and we expect them to be here in New South Wales. However, we're up for the challenge.
Victorians will go to the polls in November, but party luminaries have brushed off the One Nation threat.
I'm not concerned because I think the Liberal Party decimated its own vote, given what has been happening in South Australia.
Nationally, major parties are already on the attack.
Let's face it, One Nation, having been around for now 30 years, are yet to have ever delivered a budget. They haven't delivered a hospital, they haven't delivered a road.
The result in South Australia, the success of that party over there, is fuelled by your preferences. Correct. That you are delivering them votes and seats in South Australia.
A question of whether that success will continue into future elections. Bethany Alderson, ABC News.
Police say they're treating the death of a 36-year-old man north of Brisbane as a homicide, despite not knowing how he died. Forensic police spent the day collecting evidence at the Strathpine property after the man's body was found early this morning. 2 other people who were home at the time have provided statements to police, but no one is in custody.
There was no injuries that could lead to his cause of death at this stage. Nothing that was obvious that would attribute to his cause of death. There were some minor injuries and they'll be examined by the pathologist in due course.
We're a really quiet area. You don't get too much action.
Emergency services are continuing to help remote communities as they clean up from ex-tropical cyclone Narelle. Food and fuel have been flown into communities left isolated by last week's cyclone, which crossed the coast north of Cohen as a Category 4 system. Efforts are still underway to clear fallen trees and debris in Cohen, Cooktown, Weipa and Pomperour. Let's go to Jenny Woodward. Hello, Jenny. What's happening with the ex-cyclone now?
Well, Jess, it's still continuing its steady track west. More than 200 millimetre rainfall totals over the top end, and there are severe weather warnings for the Kimberley coast too. Now, as it gets over the warm, open waters of the Indian Ocean, it's expected to crank up again to a severe Category 4, keeping the name Narelle, and then it's likely to curve back down towards the WA coast. Even Perth could feel some impacts. Meanwhile, this low in the northeast Coral Sea has been monitored by the Fiji Met's office, so it's called 10F. It's still expected to head south and crank up the wind and waves on our southern coastline over the next few days. More details coming up soon.
The oil supply shock from the war is spilling into every corner of the Australian economy. Transport companies are starting to introduce new fuel levies to cover the cost of delivering building materials. And firms supplying pipes for plumbing are warning of shortages and price hikes.
Brick by brick, home building costs are rising as war in the Middle East upends supply chains.
Bricks, flashings, concrete, anything that pretty much comes on a truck and needs to be freighted to site has gone up in price due to the fuel.
Bradley's suppliers are bringing in fuel surcharges of up to 10%.
We sort of have no choice. They have what we want, and if we're not willing to pay the increase, and then they just won't bring it to site.
Start rationing the machines out a bit.
Yeah,
This sand quarry that supplies building sites has brought in a fuel surcharge as it churns through 500 litres of diesel a day.
This current scenario feels a lot like COVID again, and we've got this sudden price increase, great deal of uncertainty on supply.
There are particular fears about materials that are made from petrochemicals.
There is a shortage of key materials that go into things such as our pipes that is having a significant impact for plumbers and for other plastic type materials.
With prices rising and home construction times under threat, there are now fears that this situation could make the federal government's home building targets even more unachievable.
Master Builders Australia is increasingly concerned about our capacity to deliver 1.2 million homes over 5 years.
That was always an aspirational target.
As well as delays, there are risks for inflation as the Reserve Bank is already hiking rates.
Ultimately, the builders are going to have to allow for these increases, which unfortunately gets passed down to the clients.
All of this during an existing housing crisis. Amelia Terzon, ABC News.
At least 20 ships have been attacked in and around the Strait of Hormuz since the war began. One of them was a Thai merchant ship bombed by Iran as it tried to pass through more than 10 days ago. Asia editor Karishma Vyas has spoken to the family of one of 3 Thai sailors who remain missing.
Safe at last. After spending hours adrift at sea and waiting days to return to Thailand, Kittarot Ponpankan is finally home with his family and 10-year-old son. Just over a week ago, he was one of 20 Thai seamen trapped on the Mayuri Nari cargo ship after it was struck by Iranian projectiles as it tried to cross the Strait of Hormuz.
Everyone was scared, but we needed to survive. We tried everything to help each other. I thought about my mum and my son. I was afraid I would not be able to come back.
Kittarot is lucky to have survived. Jarinporn Manawan's husband, Kietisak, is one of 3 crewmen still trapped on board.
I want him to come back to me alive. I'm praying for a miracle. He must have survived, right? He has to come back alive, right?
Jarinporn says when she last spoke to her husband, he told her the entire crew was scared to make the voyage. The vessel's Thai owners, Precious Shipping PCL, did not respond to our request for an interview. But in statements, the company says that they had implemented enhanced security precautions for the ship before it set sail. Without an anchor, the Mayuri Nari is now believed to be drifting into Iranian waters. The Thai government says they're lobbying Tehran to allow a rescue mission, but they've received no guarantees.
We still can't reach them. We don't know their fate. That's why we're trying to speed up the rescue operation.
Jarinporn says she still has hope. After 30 years, her husband planned to retire this year. He wanted to see his daughter graduate high school. Karishma Vyas, ABC News, Porchai Village, Thailand.
And there'll be more on the war in the Middle East later this hour on 7:30. New York's LaGuardia Airport has been shut down after an Air Canada Express plane collided with a vehicle on the tarmac. The plane, inbound from Montreal, hit a fire truck as it was landing in bad weather. US media is reporting the pilot and co-pilot have been killed and dozens injured. Footage shows the plane tilted upwards on the tarmac with the cockpit sheared off. The airport has been shut down with planes being diverted to other airports. An arson attack in London that saw Jewish community ambulances set on fire is being treated as an anti-Semitic hate crime. 4 ambulances exploded in flames while parked next to a synagogue in the city's northwest. Video verified by the ABC shows hooded men setting the cars on fire just before 2 a.m. and then running off. UK police say they believe the explosions were from gas canisters inside the vehicles. Police are looking for 3 suspects. No arrests have been made. Sydney radio host Kyle Sandilands has launched legal action against the network that terminated his $100 million contract. Sandilands claims he was wrongfully sacked after an on-air argument with his co-host last month.
It's a showdown that was always heading for the courts. Kiss FM owner ARN has confirmed it's being sued by Kyle Sandilands over his sacking after an on-air argument with his co-host Jackie Henderson.
Be aware of what's really going on.
I am, Kyle. I totally am offended by you saying something like that.
Well, too bad if you are, because that's the reality of what we're dealing with here.
ARN says Sandilands' lawyers argue his termination was invalid on the basis they allege that there was no act of serious misconduct or breach of contract.
There he will argue, well, look, either implicitly or expressly, I'm here as a shock jock, so there's nothing shocking about what I did.
The Kyle and Jackie O show was due to run another 8 years, potentially exposing ARN to tens of millions of dollars. Some experts think unless there's an early settlement, the legal battle could be costly and lengthy.
I don't think it would be unreasonable to expect that it could take up to 2 years, but at the end of the day, I really don't think anyone's got the appetite to spend the time and money on this.
We haven't had many of these cases actually go to court, these high-profile entertainment type contracts and cases. So if we get a determination, that'll be significant.
ARN says it disputes the claims by Sandilands and will defend the legal proceedings. Gavin Coote, ABC News, Sydney.
Staff at the ABC will go on a 24-hour strike on Wednesday after voting against a pay offer. It'll be the first time in 20 years ABC staff will walk off the job. 60% of employees who voted rejected a pay rise of 10% over 3 years. ABC Managing Director Hugh Marks says the offer is both sustainable and financially responsible. There'll be disruption to programming, but the ABC plans to continue delivering some services. To finance now, here's Alan Kohler.
Well, the people who queued up outside Australia's 2 gold bullion shops in January and February to buy an ounce for $7,000 or more are probably feeling a bit bruised right now, if not bewildered. Isn't gold meant to be a safe haven in times of turmoil like war? Well, yes, except in the second half of last year, gold and silver became speculative assets, which flipped the normal script. And now the war in Iran is causing all speculative items to be sold, including gold and silver. So gold is down 5% today and silver more than 7%. Meanwhile, oil is up about 1%, making it 60% since February the 28th. And on Friday, the International Energy Agency said this is the biggest oil and gas disruption in history. Energy traders said, yeah, we know. Gold and silver miners got absolutely smashed on the share market today. Kingsgate, South Gold, Unico Silver, all spifflicated. Banks also fell and energy stocks went up, of course. Sellers are also rampaging through Asian markets after a weekend of confusion about what America is doing. And the Aussie dollar dipped below 70 US cents because it's seen as a bit of a bet on Asia and gold, among other things. Meanwhile, the 10-year bond yield went above 5% for the first time in 15 years today. Now, bonds are government debt securities that are bought and sold on the market and priced by the interest rate. They're regarded as non-risky, so the price or rate is a fairly pure reflection of what investors think inflation will do. And finally, if you're wondering why One Nation is surging in the polls, the World Happiness Report for 2026 might help. Now, last year, Australia was 11th happiest country. Now it's slipped to 15th. This chart shows the change in happiness rating since 2012, and the big mover up is China. The happiest country, as usual, is Finland, and the unhappiest, by a long way, is Afghanistan, as usual. But Australians and Americans have been getting more and more miserable. And that's finance.
To sport, the pressure valve has been released in North Queensland, briefly, after the club's breakthrough victory against the Titans. The Cowboys now host the Storm on Saturday, while Gold Coast will head back to work with fundamentals their focus.
3 matches in, but a winless start to 2026 for new coach Josh Hannay and the Titans.
Well, I know they're hurting because they also know that they're making it hard for themselves. So,
you just address it, you be honest about it, and you work hard.
It's a sentiment that's recently been shared in the north until the 30-16 win delivered the circuit breaker.
It's good to see the boys smiling again off the back of their effort. Yeah, just proud, I guess, of the way that we held our nerve as a club and a group.
Their next challenge, the Storm at home on Saturday night. Tom Chester won't play after the centre accepted a one-match ban for this high shot on Jaden Campbell.
It's a fist across the face.
The NRL's judiciary will sit tomorrow night after Dragon Ryan Couchman was directly referred for a hip drop tackle that ended Jermaine Hopgood's season. The props injury will force the Eels into a reshuffle for Saturday's Battle of the West. A 3-0 start at Penrith now sees them at the front of the premiership market.
We haven't even got through March yet, and it's a million miles away at the end of the season. We've been through sort of this before, so just understand we're still trying to get better each week, and understanding that our rivals will all get better as the season goes on.
Jessica Stewart, ABC News.
The veteran fast bowlers in the Australian men's team are set to be carefully managed during a hectic schedule this summer. Australia will play 10 tests in 14 weeks from December to March. The Gabba's been left off the 4-match series at home against New Zealand before 5 tests are played in India. That'll be followed by the 150th anniversary test against England at the MCG.
There'll be some challenges. There's some short turnarounds inside the New Zealand Test series. We then go to India. So I think it will highlight the importance of high quality planning, management of players. That won't please everybody, but that's part of the challenge of modern day cricket.
The Socceroos have unveiled their new kit for the World Cup in North America. The design is a throwback to the famous 2005 strip where Australia broke its 32-year World Cup drought. They'll wear it in friendlies against Cameroon in Sydney on Friday and Curaçao in Melbourne on Tuesday. Attacker Awa Mabil, who plays in Spain, is back in the squad for the first time in nearly 2 years.
I was just grateful, to be honest, to get called up again and to be among it again. I've missed it. You realise when you're away from it how special it is to represent your country.
Weather now. Jenny's back with us. And Jenny, has there been much rain about?
Well, Jess, it's certainly easing today, but there were some pockets of heavy rain in the tropics overnight. Han River west of Cooktown had 135, and in the Daintree, Dewan picked up 100 millimetres, plenty of 25 to 45 millimetre totals as well, while in the southeast 30 millimetres on the Gold Coast hinterland. So floodwaters still up in the Northern Cape, and we have major flooding through the interior. That will hang around for quite some time, but not much rain everywhere. It hasn't been wet on the granite belt. Richard says they've had less than 5 millimetres in the last month at Stanthorpe, so very dry and brown. At Brighton yesterday, Nick had a fabulous display of crepuscular rays, while John was heading out into the squall on Moreton Bay. And looking at the Gold Coast, Stuart had a beautiful sunrise yesterday morning. To temperatures now, and warmer in Cairns today, 31 the top, 33 for Mount Isa and Burketown, but it was a little bit cooler this morning, down to 15 in Roma. Brisbane had a top of 28 with 29 up in Gympie and 31 for Ipswich. Onto the satellite, and the focus, of course, across northern Australia. We've had some shower and storm activity over the Cape, and there is a frontal system moving through the Bight. So if we look at the chart, you can see we've also got this low pressure system, which is heading down in the Coral Sea. That'll put a squeeze on the winds here, and we do have a strong wind warning tomorrow from Gari all the way down to the border, but mainly fine and sunny over the interior. And we're looking at a sunny day for Adelaide, 31 the top, and Sydney a few showers, 27. Let's check our forecast now, and there will be showers along the coastal fringe in the north, but most of the activity will be on the Northern Cape and also out near the border, near the Northern Territory. Some storms around the Gulf Coast as well. Let's have a look over the interior, and fine and mostly sunny. Possibly a few storms out in the far northwest, 35 the top for Longreach. In the southeast, showers possible on the range and east of it, and there's the chance of a few storms closer to the coast or islands. And looking to Brisbane for tomorrow, a couple of showers about the city, a top of 29 up to 31 in the west. And on the bay, we've got winds up to 30 knots, that is. So looking ahead, Jess, you can see that we've got a very warm day coming up on Friday.
Jenny, thank you. That is ABC News to the moment. Thanks for your company. Stay with us for 7:30. Good night.
Good night.